Good morning. My name is Kenn Quinn. I'm from Bridgeton, Maine. Chairman Baldessero, distinguished committee members, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak here. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not an organization. I've been in the Article 5 arena now for about 8 years. I've been before your committee a number of times. I want to really address just one specific thing, and you can look at my testimony, my written testimony. It's about the rules. One thing I hear often, and I've heard it this morning, is that we don't have rules for an Article 5 convention. And I want to explain why they did not put that in the Constitution, because they didn't need to, because they were so used to having conventions, they understood how they operated. In fact, our country has had hundreds of conventions of states, and even. Most notably is the Annapolis Convention of 1786, which was called for commerce issues. They recommended that the Philadelphia Convention be held for the next year. I highly recommend you read Federalist 40 by James Madison. He completely refutes the charge that the Philadelphia Convention exceeded their authority. They had full rights to adopt a new constitution. One fascinating part of history is that we have even had two conventions of the states that have met to propose several amendments to the U.S. Constitution. And New Hampshire has participated in both of them, the Washington Peace Conference of 1861 and the Hartford Convention of 1814. Every year, a convention of states is held. All 50 states participated. It was called the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws. It is more commonly known as the Uniform Law Commission. This body functions exactly as an Article 5 convention would function. The scope is predetermined and limited. The commissioners are appointed by you, the state legislatures, or the governors, but in New Hampshire, it's the legislature that appoints the commissioners. They arrive and they present their credentials, which allows them on what topics they are able to discuss, draft, and they debate uniform state laws. The vote is taken by state, so it's one state, one vote, passed by a majority, and then whatever passes, those commissioners bring the model act back to their state legislature to try to adopt it as state law. In fact, right now, your House Judiciary Committee, HB 124, is a model act passed by an official convention of the states. Further history, the state themselves, and this is where New Hampshire just shines, there has been 233 conventions in the states to either adopt a new constitution or propose amendments to their current constitutions. New Hampshire leads the nation at 17. 2 of those conventions were called to adopt a new constitution, and 15 of those were called to propose amendments. Out of those 15 conventions, 261 amendments were proposed, and the people ratified 129 of them. So, of all the states in our country that should be leading this charge to call an Article 5 convention should be New Hampshire. In fact, in 2017, your legislature sent 7 legislators as delegates to another official convention of states, the Phoenix Convention, which was called by the state legislature of Arizona to adopt official rules for an Article 5 convention, which they did. I would highly recommend that you would speak to your legislators that attended that. They can provide you the actual rules. I can send those to you as well if you would like. There are so many rules. There are actually other organizations like the Assembly of State Legislatures that have adopted rules for an Article 5 convention, and the American Legislative Exchange Council, among others. So it's not that we don't have the rules. What we need are people to actually start using these rules that are well established and vibrant and have been working for us for over 200 years. And that is why I'm here in support of HCR1, because the previous testimony is right. What is it going to take to get our state legislatures to stand up to a federal government that refuses to listen to the will of the people, tramples our rights, our freedoms, and it's up to you. It's your duty under Article 5 to defend our freedoms and our liberties and to use the authority that the framers gave you through this process. Because if you do not nothing will ever change, and we will continue into a spiral downhill. So I want to thank you for your time, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And if you don't have time for that today, please email me. I have lots of information to prove that it's a limited convention. Thank you.
And I want to thank you. I've known you before coming in here, and I know you have a lot of information for. A lot of other people have a lot of information against, and a lot of other people have stuff in between. So believe me, we fully understand as somebody who's been on this committee for 14 years. But my question to you is, on the convention of states that we call for, I mean, that's just, the 50 states getting together and, coming up with, on what they could be or what you might want to bring up or whatever. But the bottom line is it's not a constitutional convention because there's no requirements for those people that attended to go into that convention of states, go back to your state, and you have to file an amendment. It's nothing that comes under an Article 5. Am I correct? Real yes or no?
Are you referring to the Uniform Law Commission that I referenced?
A convention of states that you're talking about.
No, a convention of states, no, it cannot be amended. Whatever comes out of that convention cannot be amended. It has to be adopted as written and as approved by the convention.
Right, but follow up here, what I'm trying to say in it, but it cannot be held, the states don't have to go back and file it like it would a constitution convention. Am I right? Yes or no?
File what exactly? I don't understand. I'm sorry, Chairman.
Did you have a question to share?
Yeah, I'll ask the brief
Representative
question.
Bishop.
Thank you, Chairman Baldessaro, and thank you so much, Mr. Quinn, for your testimony and for taking our questions today. So you mentioned these rules regarding an Article 5 convention or a convention of the states. I'm not sure what the differentiation is there. But my question is, what is the latitude of action within these rules? Can a convention decide not to adopt these rules? There's nothing in the Constitution that requires them to adopt these rules that you are currently citing. So could there be a fear that they just adopt a different set of rules that are contrary to the desires of the previous rules that you cite?
Well, my testimony shows that we have had so many of these conventions of states that the idea that we don't understand how one would operate is just not based on any fact or logic based upon our experience. All a convention of the states is the states having a meeting. They draft a proposal depending on what it was called for. It's limited to the call, and you control them by your commissions. So they are actually legally bound. They are agents of the principal being the state legislature. And the rules adopted would be the rules that your legislators have also already adopted in the 2017 convention or any of the other rules that have been adopted and used. They're all very similar, and there is really, this is not recreating the wheel here. It's quite just, this is how these things operate, and it's time we actually start using it and not be fearful of it.
Yeah, you can, but I can let them know. None of us are fearful of anything, but go ahead.
I just have one, just thank you, Mr. Chairman, for everything. And thank you, Mr. Quinn, for answering my question. So I guess my follow-up is, though, is there then a conceivable universe where they adopt a different set of rules that are different than previous rules that could have conceivable outcomes that are bad for the American people?
Well, you control which rules they adopt. So in your commissions, you could specify which rules to adopt. So if you prefer the rules from the Assembly of State Legislators, you can put in your commission that they would adopt those rules. This can be all done ahead of time before the convention even meets. And so it's up to the state legislatures to put that within their commissions. They work for you.
If I may to add on, this is Rep. Al Baldessaro, but in 1784, did they do something similar to that? In New York, two legislators or two voters walked away, and then they couldn't get back in, and all the votes were done secret. And,
well, I believe you're referring to the Philadelphia Convention. Is that correct?
That's the only one I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a great example of how this is limited. The New York delegation, their commission only allowed them to revise the Articles of Confederation. So they were limited by that. When they arrived, the convention was called well beyond the expansion of the articles. And so because they were not allowed to go beyond revising the articles, they were limited. And so that is why they left the Constitutional Convention. In fact, after they left, New York no longer had a vote. Now, Alexander Hamilton came back and he signed the Constitution, but his votes or his signature did not even count. And so it was actually ratified by, 11 states. And so that just proves again how the commission of those New York delegates, they were bound to it, and that is why they left the convention.
Thank you, Ken. Real quick here, so if I may, a yes or no, doesn't that prove the fact that then a state making up their own rules, because every state is going to have 50 separate set of rules that goes down to a constitutional convention, that they don't have to comply with that state? Yes or no?
No, because the states, the commissions are not the rules of the convention. The rules of the convention are adopted once the convention begins. The commissions bind and only allow what the delegates who are sent, it only provides them the authority to vote on what they were sent to do. And so that would be written up and drafted by each state legislature, giving them their authority to represent the principle. So no, it has nothing to do with the rules. You could recommend that the delegation accepts particular rules, and then it would all be based on the vote of the convention, which rules to adopt. But the long story said, we have the rules, we know how it works, we use them even today, every single year, and it's time that we finally do.
Thank you. Seeing that, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Ken.
Thank you.